Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing related tweets, or you can subscribe to the channel and click that notification and get a new notification whenever a new video is uploaded. Now, I want to talk about boxing. I want to talk about what is happening with Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, because something has developed which seems to reinforce some suspicions that I had about this fight at some stage. Now, initially, I felt that Tyson Fury was the one probably not wanting the fight because he wanted a tune-up. And I've always said, if I was in Team Fury, if I was in that camp, I would tell him, do not take this fight without a tune-up. Even if it means you take an L on the publicity side of things. Now, the problem with that, because there is a danger with that, is that if you do that and you admit publicly, I need a tune-up, all this time when you've been going along saying, I'd beat him, I'd come off the street being fat and overweight and I'd still beat Anthony Joshua, obviously, most of us know that that's just brash talk. But that's an open admission if he then says that. And if he admits it, what potentially happens is that the belts become fragmented, with Alexander Usyk having a shot at Anthony Joshua. And make no mistake, too many people are placing too much emphasis on the Chisora fight, whereby early in the fight, Usyk looked a bit uncomfortable. Usyk still won the fight by a number of rounds. He did a lot better than someone like Dillian Whyte did. He arguably did better than someone like Vitaly Klitschko did too. This idea that Usyk was, hanging on by the skin of his teeth against Chisora is just not true. But even if it was, styles make fights. And Anthony Joshua isn't the style of heavyweight that Chisora is. So make no mistake, Usyk is a threat to any elite heavyweight in this division. Trust me on that. Now, if the belts get fragmented because Usyk goes and wins the fight, or even if Anthony Joshua decides, I'm going to vacate this belt and go down another route, the undisputed fight goes down the toilet, and it takes years to build these things again. So they'll lose that. They'll lose that legacy fight, the label. Now, the majority of people in years to come will know that this was in reality the fight for the undisputed title. So they're not going to hold it against him too much. But it is a little notch on the bedpost to say undisputed. Having said that, what could potentially happen in that scenario is that Anthony Joshua then goes another route. And he starts to say, no, I'm going to fight Alexander Usyk. No, I'm going to fight Joe Joyce. And what would Tyson Fury say? You're ducking me? Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua would be able to say, what are you talking about? You had that fight and you decided to go another route. You're not getting another shot unless we don't go 50-50. You're going to have to accept 70-30. So based on that, Tyson Fury, in terms of negotiation, would lose a lot of leverage. So I can understand why they don't want to admit it publicly. Another potential thought I had behind this that I spoke about, because I discussed that on this channel too. I went on the Ringside Fracas podcast and discussed that also. But another thing I'd spoken about on this particular channel was a video which I'll put in the description box of this video, which spoke about the potentials for them not wanting the fight from a moral perspective in specific venues, or also from the perspective of giving the opponent an advantage, a perceived advantage. So they might have disagreed on where to hold it because they, Tyson Fury might have felt, for instance, if it's in Saudi Arabia, AJ has an advantage. If it's in the US, Fury has an advantage for various reasons. I'll put the video in the description box if you missed it. I won't go into it all over again. But also for other moral issues with the talk of it being in China. Now, that was a possibility. But I've also mentioned in the past, when I went on that Goodwin show and I discussed the immorality of bringing about health passports for professional fighters and fans, in one of my videos since then, I mentioned at the beginning, what happens if Tyson Fury, for argument's sake, or any elite level fighter, but Fury in particular because of something he said, chooses not to have the jab? Are you going to exclude the potential undisputed heavyweight champion from the sport of boxing and just say, never mind, it doesn't matter? Let's talk about that. So the reason I said that is because he went on to Piers Morgan's show this morning, or Good Morning Britain, whatever it was, and he basically was asked, are you going to take the jab? And he said, I'm afraid of needles. And I came here and I explained to you that might have been a euphemism, a euphemistic way of saying I'm not taking this, but I'm not going to come out full blast and say why not, because people are going to come after me, just like they have in the past when I've spoken about my views. So I'll just find a gentler way of putting it out there without making it obvious. People can sit there and assume I'm joking, but there'll be a lot of people that know I'm not. Now, let's not pretend that there are a lot of people that have taken the jab that are also against the concept of health passports. This irrevocably changes the way society works. It alters, and bear in mind, there's a reason I'm bringing this up. We're going to get to this because of something that John Fury has said in an interview. But this might be the actual real reason now this fight's being delayed. So please stick with me. When you have a health passport, you are taking away the bodily autonomy of an individual. The individual is told, for you to have your freedoms, you must submit to either regular testing or to take this jab. We're going to make your life difficult unless you take any medication that we tell you must take, regardless of where it is in terms of its experimental and trial phases. Maybe it might be safe, it might not be safe. It's got nothing to do with you. You're taking it or you can't have your liberties. In that regard, the people become answerable to the government and not the other way around. It is the end of democracy when you do not have bodily autonomy. Now, John Fury has given an interview with Boxing Social and he's spoken openly about this. And John Fury said, they want full stadiums. I'm paraphrasing here. I'm going to put a little link, a little Twitter account rather than the whole interview, because this Twitter piece, this guy on Twitter puts up a little piece, only 1 minute and 53 seconds long. I implore you to watch it, where it captures this particular part of the interview. And he basically says, they're going to want people in stadiums, but we're not going to get that anymore, are we? Life has changed irrevocably. They want to take away our freedoms. They want to turn us into robots with AI running things. And I would rather be dead. Clearly, this is an important thing to John Fury. And with what Tyson Fury said, maybe to Tyson Fury too. Now, when you marry that with the fact that these are very religious people, we've seen Tyson Fury speak about his faith in the past, much to his detriment. And it doesn't matter whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, or atheist. What I'm about to say matters because we're talking about Fury and his viewpoints. So it doesn't matter what you believe in, okay? I'm just relaying, I'm shining a mirror in the face of Fury for you guys to see what is potentially happening here. This is a man that, much to his detriment, has spoken up about his faith and stood by that, when all he had to do was submit in certain public statements, and he didn't. Now, there are a lot of people who believe, a lot of Christians who believe that what is occurring in the world today, and in particular with this regard, is biblical, that it's prophetic. I'm not going to go into why here. You guys can go and research it yourself if you're interested in that. The fact of the matter is, when he fought Deontay Wilder, and I'll also put that video in the description box of this video, I made a video where I was discussing the face-off, the head-to-head interview, where Tyson Fury had made certain statements which clearly suggested that Fury believed in a more mystical element of the faith. They were discussing things that were, he was essentially making accusations about Deontay Wilder when he was talking about his spirits and ancestry, his ancestral spirits entering his body. He was making implications about possession. Now again, doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, but he believes in a type of Christianity that clearly goes further than just what is the mainstream in the modern day. These things were a lot more mainstream 50 years ago, but in the modern day, they're not as mainstream. But Fury, the Fury clan, the whole family clearly believe in this. So when you're asking this guy potentially to do what happened in the Dillian White fight with Alexander Povetkin, where they have that sort of event, you're asking these people to go against their religious liberties, their religious freedom, something that they have never ever done in the past, even though it was to their detriment. You're asking them to go against what they believe is God's will to make money. They're not going to be willing to do that. So while we can all sit here and talk about, oh, it's a duck. You know, you're going to hear a lot of Anthony Joshua fans say it's a duck. Is it a duck? Because I don't think either one of these guys are afraid of each other. They're two elite level heavyweights, and I believe they both want the fight. And not only do they both want the fight, what do they actually have to lose? Think about it, right? They've got something that they might not gain. The winner of this will establish himself as one of the best of all time if he can win both fights. Let's say he wins both fights, whoever, and then beats Usyk too. You've established yourself as the greatest of your era, okay? The dominant force of your era. But even if they never fight each other and they were to retire tomorrow, both of them are Hall of Fame heavyweights. They've both achieved enough to be Hall of Fame heavyweights. They've both made millions. So they've established their legacy and their bank accounts. But think about levels of cash we're talking about. They make a £200 million fight. That's the first fight. Then you've got the rematch, which will be worth even more. And then the potential at true greatness, a legendary status when it comes to, I better not use the word great. Tyson Fury wouldn't like that. Only God is great. But the legendary status would be up for grabs. What do they really have to lose? You really think these guys are scared of each other? Come on, man. So there's something else holding this back. Let me know what you think. Please watch this little clip with John Fury. It's a big deal when someone's talking about these measures and why the fight is not going along and saying he would rather die. Now, a lot of people can just brush that under the carpet and pretend that this is just about boxing and one guy's ducking another, or it's just about finances. There are a lot of red flags here. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.